welcome to this special episode on the Asian Games. Firstly, all our episodes so far we've done with the MPL Sports Foundation, be it on hockey, be it looking ahead at the year 2022 and the Commonwealth Games, they have received really good traction. The feedback has been excellent. Once again proving that if you do good content and if you do serious content, there is a whole bunch of people who want to consume such content. Today we focus on the Asian Games. The way I want to go about this particular show over the next 10 odd minutes is my run order is as follows. I will first look at the 2022 edition of the Asian Games, how significant it is, how important it is from the perspective of Indian sport as an introduction. Then I will go back in time, talk to you about the inception of the Asian Games, the origin of the Asian Games in 1951, then travel the journey. How significant was 1962? Talk about some high points, Jakarta and Indian football. Talk about 1982, talk about 2010, and of course, talk about 2022. That's how I will go about it. So chapter 1. Chapter 1 is the importance of 2022. Look, far more important than the Commonwealth Games is the Asian Games for two reasons. One, the standard of competition at the Asian level is of a very, very high, standard and limit. Why? Because there's China, there's Korea, there's Japan, and there are some of these former Soviet Russia, the CIS countries. With all of these countries there, the level of competition at the Asian Games is fantastic. And that is something we have to keep in mind when we are talking about any special. As a result, there is direct qualification for the Olympics as well. So, be it shooting, be it hockey, the two sports where in the Commonwealth this time there's no shooting and India hockey will not send its hockey teams, both of these contingents will be there at the Asian Games. We will know how good India is or how good our athletes have recovered from Tokyo in shooting, and can they maintain the same standard as Tokyo in hockey at the Asian Games. So there will be a lot of focus on the Asian Games in 22. Also, another standout feature of the 2022 Asian Games is esports. Let me give you a kind of an analysis on esports. Why? In 2020, I was speaking to Vishwanathan Anand, and Vishy told me that even without Queen's Gambit, because of the COVID pandemic, the size of the chess industry, if I can call it that, has grown exponentially. So many more people now taking to the game of chess. The same has happened with esports. The Indian esporting industry has grown manifold as a result of the COVID pandemic, with people starting to consume sport online, and that has resulted in a big boost. And if you take the Indian esports market and the American esports market, there are profound differences. And if you see the Indian market, it has the potential of growing many times over the next 5 years, becoming a multi-billion-dollar industry. And with the introduction of esports at the Asian Games, that's something to look forward to as well. Now, let us go back in time. Let us go back and analyze and understand the origins of the Asian Games. 1951. The first Asian Games, if you go back and read Anthony de Mello, one of the earliest chroniclers and historians of sport in India, Anthony de Mello from memory had said one of the greatest days in the history of Indian sport was the 4th of March 1951. Do you know how the Asian Games happened? It has to be the Nehru-de Mello combine, along with G.D. Sondhi, who played a very important role. The idea was India has to be the big brother of Asia. It was a political statement as a result to combine the Asian nations. And there was an Asian Relations Conference in 1947, which Pandit Nehru, who was then the Prime Minister designate, Pandit Nehru was presiding over that conference, and at that conference the idea of the Asian Games was mooted and formed. He entrusted G.D. Sondhi to take the idea forward, and G.D. Sondhi then convinced the Maharaja of Patiala to join. You know what happened? The IOA was lukewarm at that point in time. About a year and a half, from 47 to 49 went because the IOA wasn't convinced. Then they got the IOA support. And once they got IOA support, initially, the Asian Games was called the Asiatic Games. And it was at the behest of Pandit Nehru that the name was changed from the Asiatic Games to the Asian Games. And finally, in March of 1951, the big brother of Asia, India, making a political statement, Citius Altius Fortius, started the Asian Games, which is now one of the greatest sporting properties in the world. That is how the Asian Games started. 1962. Why am I going to 62? Because when I talk about the Jakarta Asian Games of 1962, very recently we lost Subhash Bhowmik. Jakarta Asian Games is one of the highest points of Indian football. Beating Korea in the final. That team, Melbourne Olympics, yes, 4th position. But if you ask me, in terms of football, in terms of achievement, the highest point of Indian football has to be the Jakarta Asian Games of 1962. Fast forward to Delhi. Obviously, the whole city changed. We are the Appu generation. We were 6 years old, 7 years old. I was 6 in 1976 born, in 82. And Asian Games captured our imagination. Color television came to dominate our lives, gradually took over the Indian public imagination. Delhi changed as a city. 1982 and then the Commonwealth Games of 2010, Delhi changed completely as a city. Sport became important in the Indian psyche. 83 we won the Prudential Cup. 82 we hosted the Asian Games. As a result, the sporting landscape in India had completely changed. Now if I fast forward, some important moments. Kabaddi in 1990 got into the Asian Games. Remember, last time we did not win the Kabaddi gold. 1990 was a high point for Indian Kabaddi when we made a statement to the world and won the gold. 94, the real start of shooting with Jaspal Rana, winning a gold medal. Thereafter, 98, golden period of Indian hockey, the Dhanraj Pillai, that generation, they won the gold medal in the 1998 edition. Now come to 2010 Commonwealth Games, India did very well post the Commonwealth Games in the 2010 edition of the Asian Games. Brings me back to 2022. In Tokyo, we've done well. We've got Neeraj Chopra to win gold. We've got multiple silver medals. Can Neeraj Chopra stick to that standard? He will be participating at the Asian Games, the World Championship and the CWG. Can he stick to that standard and take Indian athletics higher? Can we see new athletic heroes emerging? Remember Kamalpreet Kaur. Remember Tejinder Pal Singh Toor. These are athletes who were expected to do well. Kamalpreet was very good in the women's. Had there not been rain in Tokyo, who would have, maybe she would have won us a medal. So a lot of focus on athletics. I've already pointed out hockey to you. A lot of focus on Indian shooting and some other traditional sports where India expected to do well. Boxing, for example. We will all have our eyes on the Asian Games. This, according to me, can well be the defining moment in Indian Olympic sporting history going into Paris. Will give us a reality check as to where our sport is. No debate, we at Rev Sports will cover the Asian Games in absolute detail. We will go down, we will profile our athletes, we will build it up and we will celebrate athletic achievement like we've promised we will do. That is what we wanted to talk to you today about. The Asian Games, building the competition, sharing some fascinating stories from the competition. Hope you liked our coverage, and as I said, multi-sport, multi-language, this platform will be your one-stop destination for sport in the year 2022. Thanks very much for watching.